Boom. Hey, good morning, boys and girls. It is probably 9:15 when this video finally can premiere. I'm setting this as a premiere, which means right over there, you should be able to chat in the box just like normal. Although this is going to feel live, it's not live. I'm pre-recording this right now. I am in a pastor meeting, and so I'm not going to be able to be with you guys this morning. But I want to keep the daily Bible reading going, so we are going to jump in now. Here is the Bible, and we're going to read First Chronicles. If you remember, we just finished First and Second Kings, and we finished the book of Isaiah. So now we're going to read through Chronicles, and we're going to go from there into Ezra and Nehemiah. So that will take us through all of the kind of Old Testament history, as far as, from Samuel to Nehemiah. From there, we're going to jump into the New Testament and do a few things there. So let me pray, and then we'll run through a few of the chapters here in Chronicles. Now, since I'm not going to be live in the chat, if you have a prayer request and you want the other people that are watching this premiere to be able to pray for you or along with you, you can put it there in the chat box. If you want me to pray for it, put it down below in the comment section, and I will see that comment. So if you have a question about anything that is said today or that we read today, or if you have a prayer request, just put it in the comments there below. Before we go any farther, don't forget to smash that like button and, let people know that we're here and what we're doing. We're reading the Bible Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings from 9 to 9:30-ish. And talking about it a little bit, trying to explain the hard stuff, and mostly just letting the Word of God speak for itself. So let me pray. Father, I pray that you would just bless our time in your Word now, that you would speak to us through the Scriptures, and that we would just grow in you, grow closer to you, have a deeper understanding of who you are, and what it is that you would have us to do with our lives. We love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so here we are in First Chronicles. So First Chronicles is the kind of retelling. Excuse me, I got a text message from Chris. See, it's going to feel really live because, things are still going on. So Chronicles we're going to read a lot of the things that we've already read, but it's from a different point of view. So First, Second Kings kind of tracked the downfall of Israel, right? The downfall of Judah and Israel. So we saw how the kings kind of rose, and then we had this split into the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. We have the southern kingdom of Judah down in the south, and that's where the town of Jerusalem is. And we have down there Judah. I think Judah and Benjamin are the two tribes that kind of go south. And then in the north, we have the northern kingdom of Israel, and that's the 10 other tribes. Now, something to kind of bear in mind is where the bulk of the tribes would have traveled to, the northern kingdom of Israel and went that way. Some of each of the tribes were probably intermixed or interdispersed between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So the bulk of Judah and Benjamin were in the south, but I'm sure there were some Benjamites and, some other, are they Judites? I'm not really sure. We're hanging out in the northern kingdom. And so there was a little bit of a mix there going on. Just to bear that in mind. And so during that time, as we saw, all of the kings were trying to do a kingly job, but they weren't always trying to do a job that would be pleasing to God. And so what ends up happening is over time, Israel and Judah both get worse and worse and worse and farther and farther and farther away from God. They start worshiping false gods and doing all kinds of just really detestable practices and things like that. And so eventually God allows both the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah to be judged by the Assyrians and then by the Babylonians. And so they come in, and that judgment comes in the way of a military conquest. And so the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom are conquered by the Assyrians and the Babylonians, and they're sort of dragged off into these different areas away from their homeland. The temple is stripped and destroyed, and their land is kind of decimated. And all of the high-ranking type people, they get taken back to Babylon and all these other cities. And kind of the lower ranking people are left there in the southern kingdom and in the northern kingdom. And the people of Babylon come in and they sort of like intermarry and intermix with these people. They're trying to kind of eradicate the bloodline and get rid of it. And so this judgment comes. And so there's this time of exile. It lasts 70 years. And we read about that in Jeremiah chapter 29, which is actually kind of during this time of exile. And in Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 10, we read right here, "For thus says the Lord, when 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will visit you, and I will fulfill my promise and bring you back to this place." And so there's this period of 70 years of what's known as the exile. And it's called the exile because they've been exiled or sent away from the land that they were in. And during that time, the people kind of decide to turn back to God, and they move towards coming back to Jerusalem and kind of trying to rebuild the town. And in that time, they are distraught because they kind of felt like, hey, aren't we God's people? How could something like this happen to us? How could God allow this to happen to his people? And I think they misconstrued the idea that just because they're the people of God, that God would automatically protect them and give them everything they want, regardless of their behavior, whether they worshiped Yahweh or not. And so the book of Chronicles is written to kind of retell the story of what we have read before in the history, only from the perspective of encouragement, where 1st and 2nd Kings was telling the history, the good and the bad, the ugly, and showing Israel how they got to the place of exile. The book of 1st, 2nd Chronicles is kind of going to walk us through how we know. I mean, I'm talking from the point of view of the people. How we know that we're still God's people even though we are in exile. And so 1st, 2nd Chronicles is kind of neat because it tracks like all the good stuff that happened in this time. And it kind of strips away a lot of the evil and the sin and kind of the darkness that was going on. It tracks the goodness and how God has been faithful to these people throughout this whole period of time. So we're going to read through that, and hopefully it's encouraging to you like it was encouraging to the people who read it. Now, the first like 6 or 7 chapters of this are just all genealogy. Now, I know that can be a little bit overwhelming and boring, perhaps, for some of you guys, but this stuff, if you dig down into it, you do find little nuggets that really are helpful for your understanding of the Bible. Now, since I'm terrible at reading Hebrew names, I'm going to kind of skim through this. We'll look at a few of the kind of the highlights and things, but I encourage you to read this on your own and see what kind of nuggets you can dig out on your own. So let's read the introduction. It's going to be similar to kind of the things that I said, but we'll look at it again. 1st and 2nd Chronicles, originally one book, right? We've split it into 2 in our English Bibles. It's written sometime after Judah began to return from the Babylonian exile in 538 BC, which is told in 1st Chronicles 9 and Chronicles 36. It's the fulfillment of the prophecy that Jeremiah wrote. It focuses primarily on the history of Judah, the southern kingdom of divided Israel. 1st Chronicles begins with several genealogies with special emphasis on David and Solomon. The chronicler moves next to the history of the kingdom under David, stressing David's deep interest in worship and his detailed plans for the construction of the temple, which would be built by his son Solomon. 1st Chronicles was probably written to reassure the returned exiles of God's faithfulness towards his people. Its author is unknown, although many have thought that Ezra was the principal writer. And we're going to read Ezra and Nehemiah a little bit later. One other thing to mention, as these people came back to Jerusalem, they're probably disillusioned because what once was a beautiful temple, Solomon's temple, has been destroyed. Like the gold has been taken away. I mean, we read all that kind of stuff in the book of 2nd Kings. Like they stripped the gold and the bronze and just everything that was beautiful about it. It's just gone, decimated. And so they come back to their land. There's other people living in their land. Their temple's gone. And so you can imagine how dismayed these people are as they're returning to their land and saying like, hey, we're back in our land. And there's people who've been living there for 70 years who are like, no, we've been living here for 70 years. I don't know what you're talking about, your land. And that'll all kind of unfold as we go. So let's get into it. So first chapter, Notice, again, this book is trying to reassure the people that they are God's people, that they are the lineage that God has made the promise to. And so it starts all the way back at Adam, the beginning, and it tracks the genealogy of Adam. So we have Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, all right, and then Noah. And this leads us up to the flood period. And so this is kind of like the first set of people that happen, like Genesis 1 through, up to Genesis 12, where Abraham comes on the scene. So Noah has 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and the sons of Japheth, and then it kind of names all those people. The sons of Ham names all those people. And then Cush fathered Nimrod. Now, the important thing here is Nimrod was one of the first of the giants, just like Goliath. He's one of the first of those. He was the first on the earth to be a mighty man, and or he began to be a mighty man on the earth. And so, a lot of people think that he was one of the first giants that appeared. It could be that he was just a great warrior, but those are kind of two interpretations of that. And he was a guy who people enjoyed saying his name, and he was really famous. You can read a tiny bit more about that in Genesis. So Egypt fathered all these people who I can't say their name. Canaan fathered Sidon, and his firstborn was Heth, and then we have the sons of Shem. And so remember, Canaan is the son of Shem, Ham, Japheth, I think, the youngest of Noah's son. And you read about that and that kind of strange story about him uncovering Noah's nakedness, and then Canaan gets cursed, and it's kind of interesting there. I think I'm getting that right. I could be wrong. Anytime I'm doing these things, by the way, everyone listening, I could totally be wrong. The Bible is a huge book, and while I spend a lot of time in it, I also am a human being, and it's easy to mix up a lot of these names and get things confused. And just like you, I'm a student of the Bible, but I think I'm getting that right. All right, so let's carry on. So Shem, he has these people. So the sons of Abraham. So this is kind of the next section that we read about in Genesis. Abraham. Of course, we have Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac is the chosen son, and we're kind of walking down through all of these genealogies and all these kinds of things. Then we get into the kings who reigned in the land of Edom. Of course, Edom, the Edomites are, against Israel, and it's just not good. And so we follow all of these. Notice all these people died. They died. Of course, death enters into all the things when Adam and Eve sin. And then we go on. So we have Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Joseph, Benjamin, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. So these are the tribes of Israel, right? These are the tribes of Israel. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 tribes of Israel. And all of their children grow up, and then they have kids, and they have kids, and they have kids, and they grow into these huge families or clans, which we call tribes. And we have the 12 tribes of Israel. Just some things to remember about the 12 tribes of Israel. The tribe of Levi were the ones who were priests. So like Aaron and Moses were from the tribe of Levi. They became priests. And tribe of Benjamin is south with the tribe of Judah in the southern kingdom. And then the other tribes are in the northern kingdom when the two kingdoms split. So we look at the sons of Judah, the sons of Perez. We follow all these more, genealogies as we go down through the scriptures. And again, I encourage you guys to read all these because they are all kind of interesting, and you will learn kind of little nuggets about different things, about who's connected to who and who did what. So now we have the descendants of David. This is kind of the next section. So David has Amnon, Ahinoam, Jezreelite. Oh, he's a Jezreelite. Daniel, Abigail, Carmelite, Absalom. Okay, he had the hair. He got stuck in the tree. We read about that. Maacah, Jeshur, Adonijah, Shephathiah. That's an interesting name. Ithream. 6 was born to him. Hebron, and he reigned. Yeah. They were born to him in Jerusalem. All right, then Shema, Shobab, Nathan, and Solomon, 4 by Bathsheba. Well, Bathsheba is her name here. But so Solomon ends up being king. Yeah, you see he has all these other ones, but Solomon ends up being chosen to be king. So then we follow Solomon's genealogy. He has Rehoboam. Remember, Rehoboam was the one who kind of said, hey, if you be kind to the people, they'll be kind to you, or you be harsh to the people. The wise men said, hey, you should be kind to the people, and his friends said, you should be harsh on him. Of course, he listens to his buddies. Harsh, and he's the dude that begins splitting is the kingdoms into the northern kingdom and into the southern kingdom. So then you have Abijah, Asa, Jehoshaphat, Joram, Ahaziah. These are all the guys we just read about in Kings, and I'm sure we'll read more about them here in 2 Chronicles. All right, so we go down through there. Then we look at the tribes. Okay, so Judah. We have Simeon. We have Reuben. We have Gad. We have Manasseh. We have Levi. So we should find Aaron and Noah in the Levi. So we have Jeshur, Kohath, Merari, the sons of Kohath. These are the children of Amram. There you go. Aaron and Moses, okay? And Miriam, of course, which is Moses' sister. So these are the first 2 priests in over Israel. And Aaron gets kind of elected as the high priest. Moses is acting as a mediator between God and man before any of this stuff actually happens. He speaks to God at the burning bush. So we find them in that tribe. And then we have many other people. So these are the men who David put in charge of the service of the song in the house of the Lord after the ark rested there. They ministered, and so we're into reading now. They ministered with song before the tabernacle of the tent of meeting until Solomon built the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, and they performed their services according to their order. So this is really interesting. We have, even in the Old Testament, kind of a worship team, right? You know, like in our church, we have a worship team, and we lead the congregation in song and in music. And they have the same thing here. So they ministered with song before the tabernacle of the tent of meeting until Solomon built the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, where they ministered there too. And they performed their service according to the order. These are the men who served and their sons. Of the sons of the Kohathites, Herman, the singer of the son of Joel. So he's a great singer. Son of Samuel, son of Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Eliel, the son of Torah. Okay, lots of son. And their brothers, the Levites, were appointed for all the service of the tabernacle in the house of God. But Aaron and his sons made offering on the altar of burnt offering and on the altar of incense for all the work of the most holy place, and to make atonement for Israel, according to all that Moses, the servant of God, had commanded. These are the sons of Aaron. So they're going to read all the sons. These are the dwelling places according to their settlements within their borders. So the sons of Aaron and the clans of the Kohathites, for theirs was the first lot. To them he gave Hebron in the land of Judah and its surrounding pasture lands. And so this is kind of going to tell you how all the land was broken up, where everybody lived. And these things are important if you are kind of trying to get a lay of the land and where everybody came from and how everybody ended up where they wanted, or where they ended up. And so I encourage you, read this on your own. Again, read this on your own, okay? So, in the days of David being 22,600, this would have been the mighty warriors of David, and so we get that. Then we have the descendants of Benjamin, the descendants of Naphtali, not very big, the descendants of Manasseh, of Ephraim, of Asher. Again, these are the 12 tribes. The genealogy of Saul. Okay, Benjamin fathered Bela, his firstborn, Ashabel the second. We get down to Saul down here somewhere. Okay, the genealogy of the returned exiles. All right, so here we go. Chapter 9, we finally are kind of going to start to get past all of this kind of stuff, and then we'll get into that. But let's read through a few of these sentences. So all Israel was recorded in genealogies. That's what we just kind of looked over. And these are written in the book of the kings of Israel. And Judah was taken into exile in Babylon because of their breach of faith. So this was finally when, what's the dude's name? Nebuchadnezzar, right? Takes everyone, finally conquers the land in Babylon because of their breach of faith. Now, the first to dwell again in their possession in the cities were Israel. the priests, the Levites, and the temple servants, and some of the people of Judah. Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh lived in Jerusalem. Uthai, the son of Ammihud, the son of Omri, the son of Imri, the son of Bani, the sons of Perez, the son of Judah, and the sons of the Shilonites, Asaiah, the firstborn, and his sons, the sons of Zerah, Jeuel, and their kinsmen, 690. Of the Benjamites, okay, so we have all these people. Of the priests of Judah, we have all these people. The gatekeepers were these guys, Shalom, Akabub, Talmon, Ahaman, and their kinsmen. And until they were in the king's gate on the east side, and the gatekeepers of the camps of the Levites. So we have some more people, what they were doing. They were with the gatekeeper, they kept the entrance, and they were doing all the gatekeeper stuff. Verse 28. Some of them had charge of the utensils of the service, for they were required to count them when they were brought in and taken out. Others of them were appointed over the furniture and over the holy utensils, also over the fine flour, the wine, the oil, the incense, and the spices. The sons of the priests, prepared the mixing of the spices. And Mattithiah, one of the Levites, the firstborn of Shallum the Korahite, was entrusted with making the flat cakes. Sounds like an important job. We're going to entrust you with making the flat cakes. Don't make them too flat. Sounds like pancakes to me. I love pancakes. This dude, look at this guy. He is like the royal pancake maker. I'm going to highlight that. Oh. Shalom. Royal pancake guy. He was entrusted with making the pancakes. And some of their kinsmen and the Kolahites had charge of the showbread to prepare it in every Sabbath. By the way, it's not pancakes, but still, could be pancakes. Now these, the singers and the heads of the fathers of the houses of the Levites, were in the chambers of the temple free from other service, for they were on duty day and night. And these were the heads of their fathers' houses of the Levites, according to their generations, leaders. These lived in Jerusalem. All right, then we have Saul's genealogy repeated. All right, the death of Saul and his sons, and then David is going to jump in as king. And so we're going to read chapter 10, and I think that's probably where we'll stop. We might get through 11, but let's see. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled before the Philistines and fell slain on Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines overtook Saul and his sons, and the Philistines struck down Jonathan and Abinadab and Malachi and Malachi-Shua, the sons of Saul. The battle pressed hard against Saul, and the archers found him, and he was wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised come and mistreat me." But his armor-bearer would not, for he feared greatly. Therefore Saul took his own sword and fell upon it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell upon his sword and died. Thus Saul died, and his 3 sons and all his house died together. And when all the men of Israel who were in the valley saw that the armory had fled, and that Saul and his sons were also dead, they abandoned their cities and fled, and the Philistines came and lived in them. The next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, they found Saul and his sons fallen on Mount Gilboa, and they stripped him and took his head and his armor. And they sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines to carry the good news to the idols and to the people. And they put his armor in the temple of their gods and fastened his head in the temple of Dagon. But when all the Jabesh Gilead heard all that the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and took away the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons and brought them to Jabesh. And they buried their bones under the oak in Jabesh and fasted 7 days. So Saul died for his breach of faith. He broke faith with the Lord that he did not keep the command of the Lord, and also consulted a medium seeking guidance. Remember when he was trying to talk to Samuel? He did not seek guidance from the Lord. Therefore the Lord put him to death and turned the kingdom over to David, the son of Jesse. How long is this chapter? 46 verses. We're going to save this. So David takes Jerusalem. So we'll pick up here tomorrow. How long have we been going? 24 minutes? I think that's plenty of time, especially since this isn't live. All right, so we're going to stop right there. Tomorrow we'll look at David being anointed as king, and then we'll just read as far as we can. And since we're only reading one book, we could probably get through 5, 6, 7 chapters, depending on how long they are. We'll cover a lot of ground, hear a lot of history, and move from there. So Hopefully you guys found this helpful as a bit of an introduction to Chronicles, a little bit of a reminder of what we read in 1st, 2nd Kings, and I will see you tomorrow morning. We will be back live tomorrow. I will be here for you Wednesday and Thursday this week, and we can continue on. So remember, if you have a prayer request for me, put it down in the comments below. Don't forget to smash that like button if you want to talk with the other people. Comments up there or over here. I don't know. My camera's backwards. I think it's this way. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Peace.